And welcome to the first ever UNLV All Hands meeting. We want to thank all of you who were able to join us in person and those who are watching online. The President and I and CFO Gene Vach and Erica Smith want to just share some brief updates about what's going on in this exciting campus as we kick off a new semester, and then leave some time for questions and answers from the group so you can get any question you have on your mind answered. But before we begin, I do want to read our land acknowledgement. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas wishes to acknowledge and honor the indigenous communities of this region and recognize that the university is situated on the traditional homelands of the Nuevi Southern Paiute people. We offer gratitude for the land itself, for those who have stewarded it for generations, and for the opportunity to study, learn, work, and be in community with this land. As I said, we're going to share some brief updates today, and it's my genuine pleasure to let the 11th president of UNLV kick off these updates. Please join me in welcoming Keith E. Whitfield to the stage.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
You're learning, aren't you? It's better not to be harassed by the president. He enjoys that way, way too much. It is so cool. This isn't the biggest because there's like graduation, but this may be one of the bigger groups that I have been able to talk to. And guess what? My anniversary is like 2 days away, 2 years. And I think some of that applause really gets directed back to you, because across this 2 years, it has been trying, to say the least, in higher ed. We've been challenged more than we've ever been challenged before, but this university, this community, actually, I think, has at least two things going for it that many other universities don't. And that is that we truly, truly share empathy with both one another and with our students. I hear stories of it all the time. And the second thing is what you brought just a minute ago, which is our enthusiasm. We will never be paid enough. We will never have enough opportunities. We will never see enough money to come to the university as we'd like. But we have to have enthusiasm for what we do. When times are darkest, that's when each one of us has to be a light. And you all have been doing that mightily. Actually, do me a favor, give yourselves a round of applause. I know by now the provost and our communications person are cringing because I've taken like 5 minutes and I haven't even gotten through a first slide. So I'm going to move quickly because I do want to make sure that we save time, plenty of time for you all to ask questions. So this is your official welcome to fall 2022, the new academic year. And one of the things that I've become keenly aware of during my tenure as president is that our people really make this university very, very special. I'm pleased to welcome several new people to the university. Saval Yidram, where's she at? She's here. I thought she was here. There she is. Who is serving as our Chief Diversity Officer. And we're going to be hiring, or can we make it official now, or are you going to make it official? But, we'll wait on that. We're working on something else that we're going to update you with real soon. Well, let's do this. Let's jump to the second slide. Oh, that's me, okay. See, I tell them take the power away, and then I try to grab it back. So the newest, latest COVID-19 variant is trending, but it's trending down, and that we need to make sure that we remain flexible. And while during the pandemic, the university campus was actually one of the safest places to be relative to numbers in Las Vegas. Even though that's true, even though we practice good things, we have to keep a few things mindful and be very, very vigilant. We need to make sure that if you choose to wear masks, you wear them. They're optional on this campus, but also asking that we continue to exhibit kindness, whether you decide to wear masks or not. That's a personal decision now. And for those of you who do, I know you have a good reason for doing it, so thank you for doing it. And for those of you who work with folks who do and you choose not to, thanks for your understanding of what their situation may be. We're actually very, very lucky at UNLV. We have some of Nevada's top experts on COVID-19 right here on our campus, and they include Brian Labus, like you've never heard that name before. And we love you, Brian, but sometimes it just seems like, God, has he got something else to tell us? And also Edwin O. of the Kirk Kerkorian School of Medicine. I don't know how you came up with that. You know, I'm a researcher too, and you know, I remember how I come up with research ideas, but how you came up with looking at wastewater, wow. Congratulations to you, because I don't know if I'd be that brave to do that. So we want to do things like social distancing, which all of these things are not mandates anymore. But it's these things that in this new world we have to be watchful and mindful of. So let's see, let's go to this one. So one of the very interesting, exciting things that shows you that we as a university never really, we kind of slowed down, but we really didn't slow down in a lot of ways. We actually are going to be a part and a partner with local television station KLAS-TV, Channel 8, to host 2 political debates ahead of November's general election. This is one perfect example of what a public research university actually does. We host, we are the place where you come and talk about the important issues of the day. And one of the things that I would hope is that we actually remain as a host nonpartisan, that we want to make sure that everyone's voice is heard, and that we encourage our students and our faculty and staff to participate in the political system. So when you get a chance, keep an eye out for that. Let's see, what else have we got here? And in addition to reaching out and doing things in the community, we've also been taking a look at our campus, keeping a laser eye on it and some of the opportunities that we have, and continuing some of the building that we've been doing at UNLV. I spoke quite a bit in my State of the University address last year, or this year, gosh, about the concept of building community, and that encompasses both the figurative and an example of being at a recent summit where we welcomed dozens of HR and business leaders. UNLV heard feedback from what workforce issues were needed. And as some of you all have heard, we've have some people in our workforce that have almost disappeared. And we've got to better understand those dynamics because they both affect our community, but they also affect us. Let's see. So as it pertains to real estate, we have been trying to do some very strategic construction of real estate projects that help to support our mission. One of the things that you will hear, it seems like it's almost tomorrow, but we will be having an opening for the new medical education building. That's near our Shadow Lane campus. It's nearly complete. The very first part of October, we'll have an opening ceremony. Also, if you've been walking around, you've seen the engineering building going up. There's lots to be proud of. It has been progress, slower always than I'd like to see, but good, positive progress. And I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say it's 2024 that the engineering building should be done. So, you know, keep your eyes out, make sure that you're looking around, seeing what's going on, because your campus is actually changing. Now, some of you may be paying attention to and also noticing that stuff's happening on the other side of Maryland Parkway. See, people write stuff for me, and I'm always adding to it, but I got to tell this really corny joke that they have. And that is that what happens when a rebel crosses Maryland Parkway? Possibilities open up. So UNLV has made, again, a bunch of several strategic purchases, one of them being the Public Education Foundation building. This spring, Educational Outreach will relocate from their Paradise campus, which everybody knows is prime real estate, And we've also purchased Running Rapa Plaza right across the street from the FDH building and the Student Union. Now, that project is a much longer time frame. There are people in there with leases that we need to respect and actually honor. But as I've heard, the plan has been for a long time to have a presence on that side of Maryland Parkway and even that particular building, that particular opportunity, and it just didn't come available. It has, and we were able to strike and secure that. Now, in addition to just building those buildings, we're actually been pushing for something that we like to call the University District. And it depends on what map you look at. There actually is something on a map that says University District, but it almost like it goes down Flamingo, which almost doesn't make any sense. And so we've been pushing to say, hey, we're going to have this presence on both sides. This is the University District. We will be working with RTC, with the county commissioners and others to be able to see if we can make that a reality. Many on campus have reminded me that that was no brilliance on my part, that vision actually goes back as far as President Carroll Harder. Yes. So while that thought's been around for a while, we're going to do it slightly differently, as you will see. We will help to make the main entrance to UNLV a much more inviting place so that people truly want to come to our campus. Now, I am reminded by, I won't say which one, but one of our faculty senate presidents, that she shared with me that the Fine Arts Building, Grant Hall, is the oldest operational building on campus, built in 1958. And it's not here, but I remember her telling me her goal, was in 1999. I think they said they were going to replace Grant Hall, and that now she's just hoping that it gets replaced before she retires. So hang in there, can't retire soon, but we are working on trying to make that a reality. It is kind of interesting, oldest building on campus, heck, the photo is even in black and white. But in all seriousness, the commitment to a new fine arts building will help to inspire our students in the arts, build distinctive careers in their fields. We're also planning for a new building for the Lee Business School. The new building will provide contemporary, top-tier facilities, including the incubator space, cafe, study area, 175-person lecturer, classrooms for up to 75 students, and a conferencing center, and have approximately 108,000 square feet on 4 levels. This building will allow the business school to move from its current location in the Frank and Esther Beam Hall, built in 1983, getting a little old, to its new location that will better meet the needs of that rapidly expanding program. Our Chief Financial Officer, Gene Vach, will speak a little bit more on this later, but we're approaching and vigorously preparing for the 82nd Nevada legislative session that will begin early next year. Many of the projects that I just discussed will be at the forefront of our discussions with legislative representatives. And actually, I was there last Friday. I'm going to go back this week. It's something that we want to make sure that our priorities are kept in the forefront of their minds, and to be as supportive as they were at the last legislative session, which we were able to make some progress and support from our legislative representatives. Many projects that we just discussed will be in the forefront of those discussions with those representatives, but we'll also be discussing cost of living adjustments, graduate assistant stipends, dual enrollment and co-requisite implementation, and also seeing ways in which we can improve employee health care benefits. So I have been here for 2 years, and I've never seen a Barrick lecture. So I'm on the edge of my chair waiting for this fall when we'll start back with the Barrick lecture with New York Times bestselling author Deepak Chopra. He'll visit on October 24th and lecture on the future of well-being, something we're all searching for. So we have an exciting year ahead of us. I'm so pleased to see you here today meeting, and I look forward to seeing you out and about around campus. You will notice, at least in its current configuration, that I do have a new cart. And as people know, it goes a little bit faster than the average cart. So do be looking out for me as I am on campus. Also, remember to wear red on Fridays for Rebel Red Friday. This is an amazing community, and it's great to see our faculty and staff and alumni and community supporters wearing UNLV colors and showing their support for our great university every day, but at least on Fridays for sure. So more than 60% of our grads live locally, but many also live in the northern part of our state and in California, Hawaii, and throughout the nation. We'll be working on reinvigorating our alumni base with a series of Rebels on the Road events. I just got back from one in Reno, and when I went up to Reno, I was wearing my bright red shirt. I was going to say because I fear no evil, but that's not completely true. You know, it's been years since we've connected with some of our regional alumni through these meaningful events. And I want to say that our philanthropy people did the worst thing that they could do, which we held it at the Car Museum in Reno. And so I had to strategically adjust my schedule so I could go in an hour before and just wander around so I wouldn't be distracted during the time, and I did a pretty good job on that. So, let's see, what else we got here? So I'm supposed to be at the end of my time, but I feel like I should talk some more. I'm having a good time up here. Well, let me just close by saying this. We really do have to stay the course in terms of being vigilant, in terms of thinking about taking care of one another. And that's not, you know, invading in people's lives or doing whatever. That's really making sure that you do this. Take a look at the person to your right. And it's so funny. You see, I hope everybody doing this, and then somebody does that. And look to the person to your left. Those are members of your community. Those are people that we have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and our well-being and how they're doing, just like we take care of ourselves, our children, our family. This is a community that's going to stay strong, and we're going to continue to do well. This is the beginning of what's going to be a great semester for us. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, President Whitfield. And now I'm just going to share a few updates on faculty and student success efforts for this coming semester, and then I'm going to hand it over to our CFO, Jean Vach. So we do want to introduce a few additional new leaders on campus. Leah Chan Grinvald, who's Dean of Boyd School of Law. Welcome. Alyssa Crittenden, our new Dean of the Graduate College and Vice Provost of Graduate Education. And Keith Rogers, our Interim Vice President for Student Affairs. So thanks to all of you for joining the leadership team of UNLV. I know you'll be great assets to the campus. And as the President said, we've concluded the search for our VP of Digital Transformation and CIO, and we'll be having an announcement about that in the coming weeks as we finalize that selection. As always, students are the lifeblood of this university, and so we just want to comment on enrollment. And do want to also say that we will share out all of these slides and recording of this in a UNLV Today announcement either tomorrow or the day after, so you'll have these all for your reference. We're excited to say that our enrollment of their incoming class is up about 10%. And so that's great news for the campus. Our returning students are down a little bit, and so net out, we're about little less than 1% down. If you're following the news of the national information on higher education, the 1% down is actually a pretty good place to be for a university at this moment, because there are many students who are deciding not to pursue higher education. And so every student counts, and every student who comes to UNLV is our opportunity to make a difference in their lives. So please, I'm excited to work with all of you to support all of those students and show them what we can do. One of the things we're working on is making sure we develop high-value, high-demand degree programs. And so here's a list of some of the programs we've started in the last few years. And you'll see a lot of exciting things there: data analytics, cybersecurity, intercollegiate professional sports management. All of these programs are going to add a lot of value to the university. And here's a list of some of the programs that we're working on. These are things that will serve our community well, and I'll do particular attention to the Masters of Arts in Teaching Elementary and Secondary Education. When we look at the workforce development part of our mission, one of the things that we see is the critical shortage of teachers in this country. And so thanks to the College of Education for the great work that they're doing. And a big hand for the College of Education, who got a shout out on national press yesterday, Meet the Press. They talked about the great work of our College of Education collaborating with CCSD. So well done. Let's give them a round of applause. And just a few of the highlights for student success that we're going to be working on this year. Educational equity. We know that we are an access institution with diversity that we're extremely proud of, and we want to make sure that every instructor in every classroom is using best practices related to educational equity. The Faculty Center has a great workshop that they've developed on educational equity best practices, and we'll be sharing a handout so that every faculty member can have a list of what those best practices are in their hand when they go into the class to make sure that we're using them. Kate Corrigan, our new Senior Vice Provost for Academic Affairs, and Laurel Pritchard are working on an effort that the President and I support entirely, which is to bring high-impact educational practices to every student. Those are things like undergraduate research, service learning, study abroad, internships. Students who have those experiences get much more out of college, and we want to make sure that we're putting them in the hands or in the portfolio of as many students as possible, and hopefully someday soon all students. We think it's also time to look at the university undergraduate learning outcomes again, and particularly to think about how they relate to workforce readiness. Universities are being measured now in terms of the workforce outcomes of their students. Students come here primarily because they think it will help them build a better future for themselves, and in particular focus on their career opportunities. And we are getting measured by that, and so we're going to be working on making sure that we're building workforce readiness into all degree programs. And that also will help with looking at our learning outcomes again. We're trying to internationalize the campus even more and take advantage of the opportunity that we have as a highly visible city in the entire world. Nobody asks you, where is Las Vegas, right? And we think we can bring a lot of students here to get the great experiences that UNLV has to offer. And last, online education is clearly going to be an important part of our future, adding more fully online degrees, particularly in the graduate space, but in the undergraduate space as well. So we'll be working on that this year. A little bit about faculty hires. It's been an incredible year coming out of the pandemic. About 150 new academic faculty joining us this fall, which is amazing. And I know how hard it was and how hard people worked to bring all of those great faculty on board. But they'll be incredible assets to our campus, and we increased the percentage of our female and diverse faculty in that hiring season, and 250 more administrative faculty, almost. Also, again, increasing the number of women and the diversity of our administrative faculty. And so we'll be excited to welcome almost 400 new members of to the UNLV family this fall to help us fulfill our mission. And that is a very exciting news for us that we're very proud of. We've also been working at the President's request on interdisciplinary hires, and Ed Sinikowski, our Vice President of Research, and I are working on this effort, and we did a ground-up effort to identify some particular clusters that we thought were going to be very impactful. We allocated 17 additional faculty lines, and these are entirely new academic faculty lines, and we were able to hire 11 very talented people into those new lines. The Vice President's office is also hiring a new Assistant Vice President for Interdisciplinary Research to help catalyze and support these new faculty and additional faculty in interdisciplinary areas to make sure that we're creating the synergies that can make our research go even further. And this is something that President Whitfield is especially passionate about, and we're excited to see this initiative develop over time. A little bit about faculty success. As we know and as the president emphasized, your success is our success, and we are doing a lot to try to make sure that we're providing resources for faculty to support your development. And so we have a list here of external resources that are available to all faculty members. We have university-based subscriptions, and we've been a real leader as a campus in making these things available to all faculty members. And of course, the great offices on campus that will also support faculty success. And so we look forward to those things rolling out. And two things I'll highlight here. We are bringing back administrative faculty professional development grants to support travel for administrative faculty. That was suspended during COVID because we weren't doing travel. And we're also going to be launching this fall, in coordination with HR, a new series of professional development activities for administrative assistants. And so we look forward to rolling that out in the not too distant future. And so as the president said, every one of us every day has an opportunity to make the lives of these students better and to make this community better. And the word opportunity is what we emphasize to students when they come here for new student orientation. UNLV is about opportunity, and we thank you for the work that you do every day to make that a reality. When I speak at new student orientation, I say that every person on this campus is here to support the success of students. And I hope that we all together make that a reality. So thank you so much for your work. And I am going to hand it over now to the very important Senior Vice President and for Business Affairs and Chief Financial Officer, Jean Vach.
Well, good morning. There we go. Well, I'm really pleased to just take a minute to share a few words. Our team here in Business Affairs, we're here to help the university accomplish its top-tier goals and objectives. That's our only mission. We have a top-tier mission, and the only mission that we have in Business Affairs is to serve you, so you can be on the front lines doing the education, the research, the community engagement. Our guiding principles and framework is that we want to lead with service and be recognized as the office of how for our campus. I just have a few brief updates here on the parking budget and a few campus operations. So let's see. There we go. Many of you have already been able to drive by and see the new Tropicana Garage expansion, which was completed on budget, on time, with and reopened a week before classes started, or 2 weeks actually. So that added 760 new spaces for our faculty, staff, students, and visitors. It's been upgraded with unlimited Wi-Fi, new landscaping and sidewalks. All of that makes us much better, safer, more secure for our students and others that are there. So I hope you've been able to drive by and see how nice it looks and how much it reflects the UNLV brand. So that was a big thing, really important support from President Whitfield to make sure that we invested a little bit more so that we could get that brand recognition. We're trying to do a lot to increase the visibility of our campus. So coming later this fall, we're going to be adding into the parking garage a car counting system, exterior and additional lighting, exterior and additional electric vehicle stations. Have you noticed how many more electric vehicles are on campus? We're trying to keep up by adding more and more stations. Another quick thing on parking, and the reason I'm spending just a few minutes on parking, because I know it's so important for everyone, is we now have virtual parking permits. You no longer have to go get a physical sticker. Once you've registered online, you're done. Now, if you're going to change your vehicle license plate, you need to certainly go and update that. But it just saves time, it streamlines the process, and makes everything to be available on an automated manner. So the only exception for those that prefer to park in rear parking, you might, if you don't have front license plates, and most of us don't here in Nevada, you will actually have to go get a hang tag there, but that's okay. So we have that. Another is cashless short-term parking. Who carries a bag of quarters around with them anymore, right? You know, so most you know, most large communities and cities and public parking areas are going to cashless parking. So you'll notice that all of the parking meters have been replaced with these signs that tell you how to do visitor parking. It does require getting an app, but the benefits of that is that you will also get reminders if your time's running out, and you can refill it. You don't have to actually physically walk out there. Cash is still accepted in person at the parking office if you prefer to use cash and get a temporary permit. Again, quickly, moving on to the legislative priorities. President Whitfield already has talked about this. I'm only going to just show a few highlights. We are working with the system to support system-wide requests to full restoration for operating budgets and increasing funding for per student credit hour, COLA, and performance pay. We've got our student-focused priorities. We've got some requests in for our non-formula appropriations. And then the two big asks are one-time funds are for funding to help support our interdisciplinary building and our fine arts buildings. Those are really important buildings that we want to see come to fruition sooner rather than later, definitely. So those are, we're doing detailed planning right now, so we have conceptual drawings, and we certainly have documented the business case for those. And just finally, real briefly, wanted to let you know that risk management has added some positions, working in partnership with our Vice President of Research. We've added positions to help provide increased focus on lab safety. We are able to hire Brent Weber as our Assistant Director of Lab Safety, and that we never had a full position for that before, so welcome to Brent. He joins us from DRI. He joined us in July. And in facilities management, I know when you come back to campus, if you've been away, there's always something, maybe it's a light out or something needs to be patched and painted. Just please reach out to our facilities management team. Any building or landscaping concerns, we've got Vice President, Associate Vice President Musa Pam, who joined us last year from Brown University, is really leading our efforts there to continue to transform and improve our facilities management services, and we'll be rolling out a facilities management liaison program this fall so that we have better communications and connections. So just to wrap up, you know, business affairs, we're here to support you because you're all on the front lines and delivering, like I said, the great education, research, service, and community engagement. And I'm glad to turn it back over to Chris. He's going to take on this next part. Thanks.
So Erica Smith, as is often the case now, was not able to make it back due to bad weather. Her flight was canceled, so I have a poor substitute filling in for Erica Smith today with me, but I'm just going to share a few of the updates that she wanted to provide from the Office of Human Resources, and then we will open it up for question and discussion. So, as you know, the Human Resources is here to support the campus, and there's just a few of the things I want to mention. The Management Training Academy, the new cohort for anyone in any management position on the campus, is starting September 16th for anybody who wants to participate in that. They're working with the Ombuds Office to create a new training series, and the Ombuds Office has been a great new resource that President Whitfield provided to the campus. I think everyone knows our Ombuds, who's probably in the room here somewhere, David Schwartz. Yep, there, is doing great work supporting the campus. So he's partnering with them to try to create new opportunities to train people broadly. They have a new leadership series, the Agile Leader, and they're upscaling. And then, as I mentioned before, we're going to start a new training Professional Development Academy for administrative assistants that will roll out in the coming weeks. If you haven't already seen it, they have the Human Resources Professional Development Day is coming up in a few weeks, and you can register by scanning the QR code or going to their website or emailing Kahala Creighton. It's a great day of activities. Some of them are space limited, so sign up soon if you want to get in on those. We also have a virtual solutions box that President Whitfield partnered with HR to create. And so if you have suggestions about how to make UNLV better, and I will say that this isn't a complaint box, but you can use it, I guess, as that if you need to, but it's mostly about how to make the university better. It's listed on the President's webpage. So if you go to UNLV President, you'll see a little link there where you can put in suggestions, and they're looking at all those suggestions and will share out feedback on those on a central site. We're also really thinking, as the President said, about wellness and how we can support wellness, and Erica Smith is working with Jamie Davidson, who runs student wellness, to lead the UNLV Wellness Task Force and to create additional programming to support faculty and staff wellness. And related to that, we'll also mention that we've coming back to a smoke-free campus. I think you've seen those announcements, and a special shout out to Dean Gerstenberger, who's hiding out way in the back of the room there, who's spearheaded that effort to make UNLV a smoke-free campus as of August 15th. And if you're looking for resources to support quitting smoking cessation, you can go to the public health website, and they have a lot of resources there to support people who are looking to make that change in their lives. They're also putting in place employee recognition software, which will be here in a few weeks, that gives shout-outs to people all across campus, because we know people are doing great work in all kinds of instances, and it's good to be able to give them some recognition for that work. So look for an announcement coming out for that soon. And thank you from Human Resources for all the great work that you do. And they, I know, are eager to support you, and Erica is very sorry that she couldn't be with us here today. And so, last but certainly not least, now I'm delighted to welcome our partner in supporting this university, Rhonda Montgomery, the chair of the Faculty Senate, to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning, Rebels. What a wonderful time to be a Rebel. We in Faculty Senate office have been working hard all summer long to prepare for this next year. We have several initiatives underway to help our Rebels live lives full of meaning, satisfaction, and enthusiasm. As chair of the Faculty Senate, I've chosen as my theme for the year, social sustainability. As defined by the United Nations, social sustainability covers issues such as poverty, hunger, health, well-being, education, gender equality, decent work and dignity, inequality, peace, and justice. These goals provide organizations a comprehensive overview of how to work toward becoming more socially sustainable. We in the Faculty Senate office are going to work to improve conditions at UNLV. We will focus on dignity for all and a desire to stomp out inequality wherever it exists at UNLV. We will seek to increase the level of satisfaction our colleagues experience within their lives on campus by improving our communication systems, our internal systems of faculty petitions and grievances, as well as our student petition systems, and our work with all other units on campus and within the INSHE system. This year holds a great opportunity to improve the lives of all of our campus constituents through a strong, cohesive, and positive message during the legislative sessions. Please join us in making this year the best academic year in UNLV's history. Go Rebels.
So thank you very much, Rhonda. And she sat down, but we're going to invite all of the speakers to come back up, President Whitfield, Jean Vach, and Rhonda, and we will open it up for questions. And while they're coming up, I just want to take a brief moment to thank Tondra Day, Mary Yedinak, Shayna Kinzel, Mary Tennis, Fred Tredup, and Rosita Chapman for the hard work that it took to put this event on. So. All right, we have 2 microphones at the front of the room, and so we are open for questions of anything that's on your mind. Feel free to step up to one of the microphones and fire away. And, well, hopefully don't fire away, but ask your question. Probably have to turn on the microphone first, and then we'll be happy to have a discussion and make sure that we get all of your questions answered. Thank you. All right, so we're going to have to pass this back and forth.
Hello. My name is Egypt Howard. I am an administrative faculty here on campus. My question, in particular, over the last year, there's been a lot of transition and confusion around diversity, social justice programming on campus. And so I would like to know what leadership's plan is to create a more cohesive and supportive plan for diversity and social justice programming, in specific what your commitment is to funding these programs, being that we are a minority-serving institution, along with the many other designations that we have.
Let me try to start that, and then I'll ask the provost to fill in. You know, it's so interesting. This university has been committed to DEI stuff for a long time. This is not something that happened with the Black Lives Movement that just all of a sudden we woke up. It's something that we were committed to for a while. But in our doing that, sometimes we reacted to situations and we created things and created things and created things and didn't think about how all of those sometimes would actually connect with each other or overlap with each other. And so part of our welcoming a brand new, stand up if you would, Saval, and turn around. I want everybody to see you, okay? Part of bringing Saval on as our Chief Diversity Officer allowed us to do a little bit of reorganizing and making sure that student diversity was taken care of and faculty and staff diversity was taken care of. There was sometimes some confusion with that, and we're working on trying to, you know, some of it, it's difficult to pull apart, and you don't want to lose any momentum that we already have, but making sure that we actually have leaders that are directly involved, that can lead our campus, that can come and talk to our faculty and staff and create new programs. I'll leave the funding piece to Provost Evie, but we've committed new money, I think particularly to the minority faculty programs. What is the PAC? The President's Advisory Council has representatives from lots of the affiliate groups, and we've been making a commitment to support them more than ever before. And so you'll see some straightening out of that, I think. And in some ways, it's not even straightening out like it was bad. It's the maturation of that area, of making sure that it's very, very clear on what different groups and offices actually provide in terms of support. And as you say, our university is MSI, HSI, ANAPTSI. It's something that it's in our blood. And we do have some support for it. We'll be looking for opportunities to find more support, but you will see that those groups were very active, and in part because they are financially supported as well. So let me hand this over to Chris for some additional points.
Thank you for that question, Egypt. It's absolutely something we continue to be committed to. And the way that I think the President and I think about our work, it's that building systems of people who are able to support the mission. And we do recognize that there has been significant turnover in the space of some of the offices that are tasked with these really crucial aspects of our mission. And we're very excited to welcome 2 new leaders. And we've had many conversations, both Saval and Keith Rogers, and it's been on the top of our agendas together since the day that they started those jobs, how to support those offices. And I think within the last week, I just received an update from Keith Rogers about the conversations he's been having with Saval about how to organize that work. And one of the things we're definitely committed to do is maintaining the funding and increasing it in some areas. As the President said, we're working with the President's Advisory Council, and we're looking at literally, Saval and I were talking about that on Friday, the list of funding requests for their programming to get those supported. And so now it's at the top of our minds, and we're excited to support Saval and Keith and their leadership over this area. And we believe definitely that the systems that they're putting in place will be well positioned to make sure that we are feel a great sense of honor about our support of the diverse community that we have. And Saval or Keith, do you want to add anything? We're happy to pass the mic down, you know. But thank you for that question.
Thank you for all the Rebels leader. My name is Cervantes Lee. I'm first day as a visiting assistant professor here. Thank you so much. My real question for me, I try to find housing. I'm a faculty. I feel very difficult to find housing or restricted for faculty on campus, off campus, for all the purpose built. They say faculty don't even try to show us they cannot show us the building, the unit. So I'm wondering how is our school policy or future plan to accommodate or even include more new teachers coming to our campus. Also today, I heard from Keith, our president, regarding the new plan, but we didn't talk about undergrad housing. So I think that's also one of part, very important to make us more inclusive. We want students to be on campus, to be around us. So as a new teacher, I feel if we have more housing, more teachers on campus, I really love to see that. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that comment. And we definitely recognize that housing is becoming an increasing challenge in this community. And one of the things we are doing is trying to purchase some key assets close to the campus and roll out a vision of how we can offer housing to a broader portfolio of the UNLV community. And so we recognize it's a challenge. We do have a few other acquisitions that might be able to play some role in supporting this for incoming faculty. But it's not an easy problem, and so I don't want to also say that there's going to be, a silver bullet that will solve this, but it is something that's on our mind and that we're working on.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Heather Addison, the chair of the Department of Film. And my question is sort of a follow-up question to the one that was just posed, thinking about how to make things as welcoming as possible for our students. I couldn't help but notice when, Chris, I think you gave the enrollment numbers and that our freshman enrollment is up 10%, but yet our overall headcount is down, I believe, 0.8%. So I don't know if this team has any insights on maybe maybe you're only speculating, but what you think about why students don't come back, and maybe the number one or two things that academic units can be doing to make programs and the environment welcoming for students.
Well, thank you for that question. And luckily we get our key leaders to sit in the front row, so we might be handing them the microphone shortly. But I think there's no single answer to that, but in general, one of the things that a lot of students are asking for is online paths to finishing their degrees. Because one of the things that happened with the great disruption that came with COVID is a lot of people relocated because everything was online. And so what we're seeing now is the kind of settling out of that, I think, where some students moved away, and if they don't have a pathway to finish their degree online, they're not able to come back to UNLV and do it in person. So giving students more pathways to get across that finish line, and you'll notice that two of the new degrees that we listed were the General Studies degree in Liberal Arts and a General degree in Science, both of which can be completed fully online. That allows students some of those pathways if the degree that they were initially targeting doesn't have that online completion option. The other thing is the educational equity push that we're talking about this year, making sure that every faculty member is trying to reach out in a personal way to create a connection with students. One of the things we recognize as a diverse institution is students come in with different amounts of social capital, and that social capital influences how resilient they are to challenges. They also may have different levels of financial struggle, and we're really trying to work with that. We've made dramatic changes and improvements in our financial aid office, which is a key part of our student success and access mission, and very proud of what's happened over there. If you follow the Twitter feeds of the campus over the last few years, in the past, financial aid was the #1 complaint that was coming up. The amount of improvement that's going on there is literally, enough to blow your minds in terms of the service being so much better that we're almost getting none of those kinds of complaints now. We just released the financial aid numbers, I think, last Friday, which is great news for the incoming students. We also have emergency grant programs that they're trying to coordinate through the Office of Undergraduate Education and the Graduate College for students who might need a little bit of help to get them over a last hurdle if that's the obstacle for them. I don't know, Kate or Laurel, if you want to add anything.
I want to Admai, thank you for that question. It is very interesting. And actually, we're not unique. I had a call on Saturday with several of, it's our Mountain West Athletic Conference, but it's, Boise State wasn't there, but University of New Mexico, San Jose State, San Diego State, Colorado State. Interestingly enough, all of them who were on the call reported that their freshman enrollment was up and their returning students were down. And I think that's in part reflective of also what you're seeing in the workforce, of that there's still actually gaps in the workforce and we don't know where those people are. It's a really good question. I don't think anybody has the answers for it. But as the provost laid out, I think one of the things that we're doing very well as a school, as a university, is that we're doing actually helping, and you guys are the ones really doing this, to create a context where people feel like they belong. It seems like such a warm and fuzzy kind of concept, but your student success people will tell you all day long that there's one or two things that you have to be able to allow students and help students and promote them to be successful. One of them is belonging. Financial aid is one of them as well. But also to know 2 or 3 people, that them feeling like they know somebody makes them feel connected, makes them feel like they belong. And so the efforts that you all make to actually talk to your student, that after-hour piece, or they're catching you and you're really going somewhere, but you take a couple of extra minutes to talk to them, it will make a difference. It'll make a difference in our retention rates. And actually, that's one place nationally where we've been doing better, because everybody has seen a downturn, but ours has not been, we're not happy with it because, of course, we have our goals set high, but it's actually not as bad as we've seen in a lot of other places, I think primarily in the Midwest and in the East. And so it's a very good question. It's not clear whether that's going to repeat, whether that's going to be something where we can go actually out and outreach to those folks and bring them back. I know Laurel actually has a really cool program that helps students with that financial piece, because that is one of the biggest considerations that students have in both selecting a school as well as being able to continue. So we're doing the right things. I think we're going to have some explanatory approaches relatively soon when we get chances to talk to students who maybe come back next year who sat out and find out what was behind their thinking.
Good morning, everybody. Is this on? Okay. We have a couple questions for the participants that are joining us online. Kimberly Myler and Sam Leaf have a question that kind of dovetails into this conversation, and they would like to know, with the increasing freshman cohort and some increasing opportunities online, is there also going to be increased staffing of student services such as financial aid, registration, and advising?
So the answer to that question is yes. It's a catch-up problem, but we have done enormous amounts of hiring in all of those areas over the last 2 years. We also have tried to sort of do some incremental increases in the salary, because one of the challenges we're having in some of those areas is the rate of turnover. So we're definitely, the first time we've staffed the financial aid office at the nationally recommended levels. We've also added, I think, about 20 positions in advising over the last few years. But there's still a number of vacancies, so it's a kind of a catch-up game of trying to make sure that we hire fast enough.
We also have a couple questions related to parking. Is there a plan for staffing infrastructure to, I'm sorry, let me go down one. Why must employees pay to park?
Yes, that is a question that comes up often. And this university, as well as most other universities that are in dense urban environments, have shifted to paid parking for a couple of reasons. One is to be able to manage the volume that comes in. We've had to build many more structures. Do we want to take that out of the state budget and take it away from all of these other initiatives that we need to do? And the answer to that is no. We'd have to take $6 to $8 million out of institutional infrastructure. So most urban universities, dense universities, have gone to the self-supporting model for their parking facilities. And but there's also the social consciousness reason of this, is that if you do pay for parking, you're making a choice to use a vehicle for traffic, and you might be willing to consider other options such as carpooling. You might be able to consider options as public transportation, and there may be other ways of doing that. But that is something that drives the conversation, is that you do have to make a choice. If it were free, everybody would bring their vehicles, and now some people are making a choice. And so we're trying to find the right balance there. Yep.
And just to add to Jean's comments, we are definitely below our peers in terms of the rates that we charge with parking by a significant amount. And we also do provide a free lot, which is also an outlier for our campus. And if people don't know where that is, you can look it up on the website. We can't promise that that will be there forever because space is getting to be at a premium. But right now, there is a free parking lot that people can use.
And to follow up, will 2-hour pay-by-phone limit increase during the semester?
2-hour pay by phone. I may have to phone a friend here to to get the confirmation of that. But I do know that you can increase using the app, and I will have to have that answer sent out after this session because I don't know the exact details. I think it depends on which lot that you're in, and all that information is available on our parking website, and we will have our team send out a specific answer.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Nate Fauschucker. I'm the coordinator of New Student and Family Programs. As I've been talking to current students and new students over the course of the summer for orientation, a lot of them want to know, when will the university have a new mascot, since it does help give the university an identity?
I kept thinking that it would stop at some point when passed on, but I guess that was wishful thinking. You know, it is very interesting thinking about what a mascot actually means to a university. And our university, in my time here, I've done a lot of, I guess it's history. It's almost like looking back and seeing how we've changed, what our issues were, what our struggles were, and then who we are. Because a mascot is supposed to, in part, embrace who you are, your identity, and how we think about ourselves as a community. And I think we're just about at the point in time when we can think about that again, where we leave the last mascot in the past and then think more clearly in the future about what we might consider. But I can tell you that it's not a necessity. We are known as the Rebels. And I cannot wait until Thursday because I'm going to say I'm in my 3rd year here. But, you know, people still think that I'm new. And part of that newness is knowing even more so from the outside of how our university is actually viewed. It's not viewed by a caricature. It's viewed as being UNLV, and then the second one is Rebels. So we're going to consider that. We're not going to go forever, I think, without considering what we might have as a mascot. But as you can imagine, if we just took a poll in this room, and, you know, and I'm sure each one of you has an idea of what the mascot should be, how you come about to trying to do that is actually, we want to make it so that it's fair, it's equitable, it represents who we are, how we think about ourselves, and that as many people who want to have a say in it can have a say in it. But for this moment, I think we're okay. Our identity is as Rebels, and that's actually really, really powerful. So what I'd encourage you to do is to, between now and whenever, think about what a rebel looks like. What does a rebel actually look like? There is that other school, I was up near them and it gave me the willies, that think about them as wolves, which is interesting. And that they have a pack mentality, which is very interesting, and I'm not going to expand on that one. But that's usually what a mascot actually represents, is who you actually think of as an identity. And I think that we have separated ourselves from one, and now we have to be open to the next. And so we will be working on it in the future.
So while we're waiting to see if there's any other questions coming in from the audience, one of the people who probably most of the people in this room don't know, but who is a big part of welcoming students to UNLV and creating that sense of belonging, I think Ryan Ramiro should stand up, because Ryan's usually on this stage. Ryan brings incredible passion to all of the new student orientations, as well as a lot of red sparkly things. I don't know if you can see his shoes, but he's got the red sparkly shoes on. And you know, he's part of the team that really does try to create that sense of belonging right from the moment that students walk on campus. So thanks for your work, Ryan, and for all of the new student orientation workers. If you've never been to a new student orientation, it's a really fun thing to just pop into the back of the room and see the energy in that room as new students come into UNLV and look for that future that they want to build for themselves. So thanks for the great work, Ryan.
So I wasn't going to ask a question, but because nobody else is up here, somebody has to fill the space. So I have a two-part question. Part number one, we've added more advisors, but advisors don't teach kids how to do math, and they don't teach kids how to write sentences. And it seems to me, having taught through this whole thing, that the skills that have deteriorated over that time are the math and English skills of our incoming students. And what are we doing to help bridge the fact that those students wasted 2 years in school? So that's a big part. And I had a second part, but
well, why don't we let Laurel has been working very hard. Laurel Pritchard is our Vice Provost for Undergraduate Education on implementing a lot of stuff to support English and math, so maybe she can comment on that.
Thank you. That's an excellent question, Bill, and one that has been top of mind for us for at least the past 2 years. So we've had something that I like to call the perfect storm during the pandemic. Obviously, we had many students in high school learning remotely, and that impacted their progress in those fundamental subjects, math and English. We also, at the same time, had a policy change at the NSHE level where the four-year institutions went test optional for admissions. So we are getting far fewer ACT and SAT scores than we ever have in the past to be able to place our students, incoming freshmen, appropriately in the right math and English course for them. And we also implemented during that time the co-requisite support courses to replace traditional remediation. And so we've had all of that going at the same time, and we've definitely seen more students going into those co-rec courses than we anticipated. So we've worked on some solutions to try to move more students into the college level courses as it's appropriate to them. So we now have self-placement options for both English and math that we encourage students to take advantage of before they come to orientation, and if they haven't done it by orientation, we keep hammering away at that message to try to get them to do so. We've also worked really closely with the Department of Mathematical Sciences and the composition program to try to balance out student enrollment across the year so that they're not having all of their workload in the fall. We haven't been completely successful in solving that problem, but we are continuing to work with them on that. So we definitely are working on solutions. We're not all the way there, but we are working.
So, and then related question is, how are we figuring out what our students really want in terms of in-person versus online? It seems like in my college so far, the freshmen and sophomores want their courses online, and the upper division students seem to want their courses in person. Though this summer we had to cancel almost all the in-person courses and only teach the online courses. How are we actually talking to our students to figure out what they want to take? We could have had much higher student enrollment, I think, in this summer if we had known somehow ahead of time that they weren't going to sign up for the in-person classes.
So I guess that's also a question for me. Chris gave me the nod. So, one thing we know is that particularly over the past couple of years, students have voted with their feet. Anytime we add an online section of just about any course, it fills up. I mean, immediately. And we see a boost in FTE anytime we increase our online capacity significantly. So in the aggregate, that's how we know. We did conduct a survey last year of all of our undergrad and grad students, and we got some data from that we have shared out, disaggregated by college, but if anybody would like to see it, please feel free to contact me. We can reshare that data. But generally what we found was that our students want a mix, but up to a third of them say that they intend to take all of their classes online. And so, so that's something that we need to be thinking about at the college and department level. And we're certainly, in the Office of Online Education, happy to sit down with departments and look at the way your programs are structured or where there are opportunities to offer more online or even to build an online version of a program that you already offer in person.
All right, me again. We did have another question come in from our online participants, and this one's related to infrastructure. Any discussion on how to better connect the Shadow Lane campus and the Las Vegas Medical District with Central Campus?
Yeah, I can add to it. That's what, after they pass you the microphone, you go ahead and start and I'll add to it at the end. That's an excellent point. It's an excellent question. We have been working to try to figure out ways in which we can actually make sure that we keep our campuses. I hate the idea of, one, the physical distance, actually, which is wonderful. I'll go on a rant here. I worked at Penn State for many years, and one of the things that we struggled with was the main campus was 110 miles away from the medical campus, and it made connecting so much more difficult. But we did it, and we did it in part from we would have occasional vans that would go back and forth. We had made sure that in terms of how we thought about things, strategized, worked with things, we had connections between the two campuses. And we've been thinking about how to do that, particularly with our academic health center. I want to even use this as an opportunity to give a shout out to our deans. Our deans in nursing, public health, integrated sciences, urban affairs, education, liberal arts, medicine, dentistry. Who did I miss? Fine arts. But fine arts too, which is the excellent point of that they're all working together and talking about this. There's a group of them that work a little bit more than others about our academic health center. And it's the idea of having that connection amongst those colleges, the main health-related colleges, and our colleges that serve and connect with mental health, and with things like fine arts and engineering and others. So is there a specific plan? No. I will share with you, you might have seen my car. I have an electric car. And my dream is that we have electric transportation across both Shadow Lane and here, but as well out to our research park. And someday out to our 2,000 acres. And so it's a dream, but trying to figure out how we actually do that. I think people like Ed Sinikowski actually has really been, the Vice President for Research has been facilitating that, because he's been bringing both deans as well as faculty together and encouraging them to have cross-disciplinary sorts of projects. I think even as we think about some of our future builds, for example, the Interdisciplinary Sciences Building, which is one of our top capital improvement projects that will be taking to the legislature. The intention there is that it will have some space which will definitely facilitate faculty from the medical school, from those health sciences that may be at our Shadow Lane campus with here. But it's something that I just try to address that person's concern with saying we are attending to that. The desire is to have those two connected and not to have two separate campuses when we're, 4 miles apart from one another. It shouldn't seem like two completely different worlds. They should be interconnected. And so we will be continuing to pursue on how we can enhance those connections, both from instruction, opportunities, and research.
Hi, I'm Amanda Morgan. I teach in the School of Public Health. I teach a lot of undergrads, and I've noticed, especially during pandemic, that the amount of mental health issues, from anxiety to depression, as well as accessing services, has been harder. So I want to know if we have increased a budget, if we have a plan to provide better, whether it's group support or individual services, so they're not waiting 2 months to see a clinician when they're dealing with serious stuff, on top of dealing with the grief. I have so many students who lost family members, and also us. Like, what are we doing for us to be okay through the stress and everything that we've all survived the past couple years? So I'm just curious. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for that question. I'll start off. Absolutely, we recognize that as a key need of the campus and sports students, and we're proud to be able to say that we are dramatically increasing the staffing of our Counseling and Psychological Services Center. We've been hiring new psychologists, almost doubling the staff. I think we've been, I can't know the exact number, 10 new psychologists, including giving them new space. And so Keith Rogers has been working with Jamie Davidson. And they're also building out more virtual resources that students can avail themselves of. So we are dramatically ramping up those services. It's one of those situations where it's a little bit hard to catch up to the need, but we are moving fast to increase the capacity in those areas.
I'm so glad you asked that question because it is something that we need to attend to. You know, we're in the space where we kind of think of ourselves as being post-pandemic. Part of what's happening, and we're seeing it nationally, we're seeing it everywhere, is that there are mental health concerns. I believe that UNLV is going to be much better positioned to be able to address those things as time goes on for a number of reasons. One is that our mental health folks are working with our physical health folks. Actually, we just forgot where it is in terms of the budgeting and approval process, but support from the state to be able to build an ambulatory care center on our Shadow Lane campus that will have both mental and physical health sitting right next to each other and being ready to address the things that our community actually experiences. I don't know how to tell you how important and how different that is. I have been at several universities, and my background is in psychology, and typically when I was given a space in a medical school place, it was usually in the basement. And I think that that reflects how sometimes medicine actually thinks about mental health. We're doing it just very differently here. You need to definitely applaud our leaders because they have been open to a space that is typically thought as being conflictual. And actually, they're not only open, they're actually working together. And my heart is actually really warmed by that. I will also say that no one has asked whether this is the digital president or the real president. I almost thank you for that. That joke is almost getting a little old, but I like it. And in part, that was not so that you would see even more of me. That was really the idea that I wanted to figure out a way. Actually, I can remember a meeting the provost and I had in my office, and I said, you know, I just get such a thrill. When I came, I would never see anybody on campus. I'd really like to meet our students. And Provost Heavey was like, oh, sure, we can have some sessions, meet your students. I said, well, I want to meet all of them. He said, well, Keith, you know, we have over 30,000 students. I mean, he was trying to be so gentle. It was very nice. And I said, yeah, I don't care. I still want to. How can we do this? How can we expand our reach to be able to connect and make that belonging piece of it? And that's what the digital president is actually for. It's to be able to make sure that at any time of the hour, people that are living in a digital age can actually reach out and talk to the president. And it's more of that they are more of a concierge to try to help direct you to where resources might be. But you'll also be seeing, and I think we're going to send something out here relatively soon, Vince, where we talk specifically about mental health and the resources that we have at the university, because as the provost said, we've made significant investments in both for psychological counselors and other resources that are really there to try to help. I think that that point actually is an extremely good point about people in the waiting line. If we can pull people out that are experiencing things like stress, depression, anxiety, isolation, and have other support for them, the ones with other sorts of mental health problems like we do, and we do have students that are, you know, mania, schizophrenia, all of those other sorts of things. I'm not going to pull out my psychological hat on you, but that's one of the strategies, is to make sure that we are addressing what the pandemic has caused in terms of mental health issues, and making sure that those are appropriately addressed. And then ones that are more serious, be able to make sure that we get them in, I think, even more quickly. But it in part, the way that we will address this is through you. And it sounds like I'm putting a lot on you, but honestly, the environment and the support that we have at this university through our faculty and staff are what are going to make it better for those students. Now, I've been talking about students, but we need to talk about each other as well. And that the stress that you all have been, you know, it was like riding a two-wheel bike and then all of a sudden being thrown a one-wheel bike, of going to, from in-person to more in-person to less in-person. Those are difficult things, and even our personal situations, I think, complicate things. Please, you will be hearing, I think, through Erica, through Student Affairs, through the Provost Office, of the resources that are available out there occasionally, just to make sure that you keep in mind that it may not even be you who needs it. It may be the person next to you who needs them. And you need to make sure that you share that information with them. Thank you.
Good morning. First off, thank you for this opportunity. So my name is Taylor Cairo. I'm relatively new here. I'm only 3 months in. I am a conference and event coordinator with the Student Union and Event Services team. I have a comment and a question. First, my comment is just for pretty much everybody in the room. If you have student staff that report to you, please make sure they do feel valued. As part of the Student Union, this whole ballroom was set up by students, the stage, the seating, everything in here, and they work very, very hard. So just please make sure they do feel valued. And then my question, as a student that just graduated in May, what likelihood could there be of maybe further night classes or weekend classes? For myself, I worked 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and I had people that worked overnights. I myself worked overnight before coming to UNLV. And so for me, having that flexibility of weekend and evening classes would be beneficial, especially because while I did complete my program online, I felt completely disconnected from the institution. Like Premier here this next week, this will be my first time ever attending Premier because I had no connection to the school. So that would be my worry, and maybe why students are dropping off, is they don't have that connection to UNLV. Thank you for your time.
Well, thanks for your comments and for your work supporting this great facility and our student workers. Definitely, we will look at the issue of some evening classes. We've looked at various points at weekend classes. Generally, they don't enroll very well. Sometimes cohort-based programs can be successful in that model, but just putting a class on a Saturday, generally, you know, we don't get much demand. And what I think our strategy is primarily is to make sure that we're building really high-quality online classes that do more to promote a sense of connection and belongingness, because those are the programs that people choose most often for that. And so I'm sorry that you didn't feel that in the program that you had, but it's something that I know our online ed team, I saw Beth Berry back there, is working really hard with the whole academic affairs team to make sure that we're getting more ways to have people meaningfully engaged in a sense of connection, even when they're online programs. So thanks for those comments.
Hi, I'm Ray Borsetti. I fundraise in integrated health sciences. So UNLV has this awesome and growing early childhood center, right, and a generous sick leave program. But I'm really surprised no family leave that's paid. And so I was wondering if that's something that we've considered, both because it dovetails well with the priority of recruiting and retaining female faculty, and also because it supports certain public health outcomes.
Well, we do have a paid leave program through the sick leave. Obviously, this would be a perfect Erica Smith question, and sorry that she's stuck in the East Coast due to the weather, so I don't know the details about that, but it's something that we could get additional information on and email people back about.
That's good.
So we'll look into that further. And then one last question, and then I think we should have two last questions, and then we're going to invite, I think if it's okay with the president, our athletic director up to just welcome people out to the sporting events as the fall season kicks up. I see him hiding in the not in the back, but.
All right, well, this one actually dovetails on the prior question. Do we have any plans to improve access to childcare for the UNLV community? The wait list for campus care is long.
Yeah, a dean with stage fright, I don't think so. We have been making some advances in that direction. There is even an anonymous donor who wants to try to improve, to build on our child care facility. I don't even know how to describe where it's at, but it's over kind of where our Boys and Girls Club is in that part of campus. And I can tell you we have been having conversations about could we build even another child care center. I thought you were going to say something about there was some recent funding from the city that helped to fund families who are putting kids in childcare because the cost is just absolute. Yeah, see, if I do it wrong enough, long enough, now she gets brave. Okay.
All right, I can't watch this anymore. We did receive an anonymous donation of over $10 million to support the expansion of our current Childhood Development Center, which will essentially double the number of kids that we're able to see. Currently, we have around 180, so that's a big deal. In addition to that, we are actively fundraising to support the additional costs of building that expansion. So that is going well, and I'm really appreciative of all the folks that have expressed support so far for that. Referring to the funding available, our preschool, in partnership with other parts of the university, received a C-Campus grant and about $1.4 million that provided support to UNLV students so that they could have their children in our center. So that was excellent. And we have received other funding that will come out to continue to support that. So we are doing what we can in terms of expanding the number of seats, but also support our students who need the help to find high quality, affordable childcare in our community.
Yeah, payback will happen at some point in time. But thank you so much for the details of how we're trying to address that issue. It is a huge challenge. We know that it is. Actually, we've been having some conversations, even as we think about what we might do on the eastern side of Maryland Parkway or other possibilities, of being able to increase the size of our child care capabilities, because we know this is a huge issue for our students, it's a huge issue for our faculty and staff, and it's cost, availability, it's all of those things. And so it is one of those priorities that we are keeping in mind so that if we find an opportunity, we can try to seize it, and we would try to address that issue.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for your leadership. I'm Tony Farrar from the College of Engineering, and I'm sorry to ask a bummer of a question at the end because it's so uplifting. There's too much violence in schools, and I don't know what we're doing to keep our campus community safe. And as someone who spends most of his day in front of the classroom, I don't know what my role is, and I'm not sure how we are ensuring that the people who need to be taking action if something happens are trained and prepared to do that. So thanks very much.
Yeah. Dean Hayes is sitting at the edge of her chair, so I'll mess this up so she'll come up again. Thank you for bringing up that question. One of the things that I connected from my perspective in terms of mental health, and it is the stress and anxiety that's going on. You're not only seeing it in schools, you're seeing it on airplanes. People are more violent on airplanes now than they've ever been before. There's more incidences than we've ever seen. And so how do we actually deal with that? I think outside of our UNLV community, I think that we try to stay supportive. We make sure that our teachers actually have that in some of their training, that it not be swept under the rug, that it's an issue that comes out. And on our campus, I come back to that you all are in part the solution for that. The support that you provide will try and support and the reduction of some of those uncomfortable interactions that ultimately people have. But part of it, we're going to need to attend to it. We're going to need to attend to new training that we need to provide for faculty. Actually, oh, even better, so I'll stop here soon. But it's one of those things that we're seeing as a country, as a university. We do know that it's happening, and so we do have some leadership that's actually supporting some of that, and that's why I'm going to hand it off to our Faculty Senate President here in a moment. But I think in part we have to actually acknowledge that it does happen. We actually have to make sure that we report it so that we can actually make sure that we get to the bottom of some of it, because some of it are individual situations and some of them may be culture that we have in different parts of our university, and we just have to attend to it in that way.
All first-year experience classes teach safety as far as what you're referring to, but our police department also has an outstanding video that you could put in your class. Do you use Web Campus? You can put that in there. Regardless of what I teach, I do teach first-year experience, but even when I'm teaching my electives, I do a very quick, what do we do if someone comes into this class? What weapons do you have? How do we protect ourselves? 15 minutes. With every class I teach, we talk about books, we talk about high-heel shoes, we talk about how do we protect ourselves. And I think that's something that all faculty should be prepared to do with their students. But the police department has an incredible video that's prepared and can go right onto your Web Campus platform.
Thank you. So before we give it to the president to say the final closing words, I know that one of the things we're also incredibly proud of is our student athletes, and so I thought we should have our athletic director welcome you out to the games.
Thanks, Provost Seavey. Short notice, but all is well. All is awesome. Excited about the year coming up. Our student athletes have had a great summer of doing things in the classroom as well as on the fields and on the courts and the waters to get prepared for the academic year and be able to represent our university and represent each and every one of you in a very high-class manner, in a first-class manner, so that we can be proud of what they do on the court, on the fields, and in the waters. First game coming up in just a few short days that is important to us, and it's our women's soccer program. This is the 50th year of the anniversary of Title IX, and extremely important that we support our female student athletes on a regular basis. This coming Wednesday, they play at 7 p.m. soccer at Peter Johann Memorial Field. The volleyball team is opening up, home opener is September 1st at 6 p.m. Football this weekend, August 27th, Idaho State, 12:30 p.m. Idaho State is busing down from Pocatello, 9 hours. So hopefully we can take care of them with a very quick game and take them out and send them back on the bus for another 9 hours. That will seem like 16 hours, but excited about that. Excited about what Coach Arroyo will do this year in his third year. On September 4th, men's soccer, 7:30 p.m. Again, at Peter Johann Field, we have a new men's soccer coach in B.J. Craig. B.J. comes to us from Oregon State, where he was associate head coach on the #1 team in the country just a year ago. So excited about what Coach Craig will be doing for us. And for those of you extremely interested in seeing the Air Force game on homecoming, that will also be faculty and staff discount night as well. So information about that game as it relates to the cost of tickets will be going out very soon, but that is homecoming. It's at 7:30 p.m. on October the 15th. Again, Air Force, and we'd love to have anyone interested in purchasing tickets. for the veterans that we have here in our country, in our local area that would be interested in coming to the games, please feel free to reach out and we can help those individuals that would like to come to the game. And also, just following up that week, shortly thereafter will be the Veterans Day on Fresno State, 7:30 p.m. that will also recognize and honor veterans on that day as well. So for those that are interested in the Veterans Days, in essence, we have two, homecoming for the Air Force game on the 15th of October, as well as Veterans Day on November 11th versus Fresno State. So thank you very much.
Our president, I think, gets the final word of thanks.
Thanks. I think we should take a moment to thank Present Company Excluded, our folks here on the stage for getting us started, getting all of our hands on deck. If you would, let's give them a round of applause. One of the people who asked a question said that they thought that this morning was inspiring. I hope that you have been inspired. I hope that there has been some element of this was something that you needed to know, something that you were curious about, something that makes you then look forward to this semester. And I can tell you that part of our success, in large part, is thinking we're going to be successful. It sounds like such a small thing, but it becomes a huge thing if we think about ourselves as a community. We are a community. And so that positive attitude, that inspired perspective, it helps to make us a better university. So, for those of you who are here, if you would, because I don't think I've ever done this before, but I want you to, this is all hands on deck, and, kind of the military brat in me was like, yeah, right, let's go. Let's leave here with that let's go attitude. And I think we can do it easily by you all doing a back and forth with me. When I say go, you say rebels. Might seem funny, but let's see how we feel about it. So go. Rebels! Go. Rebels! Go. Rebels! Go out and do great things. Thank you very much.
How's our